Hole through the block with 700 miles on it. 700. Alright guys, wanted to tell you the story about not this paccar but my last paccar about 1.2 million miles ago. When I first got it, it blew up hole through the block with 700 miles on it. 700 the second day I owned it. Let me tell you, my first paccar and everything. And you know, I wasn't crazy about it. Immediately it didn't have a whole lot of power, so the shifting, I kind of had an issue with it. It just, the timing wasn't right on the shifting, and on top of that, it didn't have a rev limiter. So whenever you missed a shift, usually in a Cat or Cummins, it'll go to 1600 RPM and just hold there. With a paccar, it'll just rev out. So I missed a couple shifts. You know, when transmission is new, it's hard to shift. And boy, it just revved out 1800 RPM or something like that. And so anyway, I parked that night, and one of my co-drivers, he parks next to me, and he said, something sounds off about your engine. And I said, okay, well, it sounds fine to me. I mean, I don't have any experience with these engines. He said, well, rev it up a little bit. He says, it just doesn't sound right. But ultimately, we said, okay. I called my mechanic, my company, and he said, yeah, these pacars, they sound a little bit different than the Cats you're used to, and the Cummins you're used to. Okay, cool. And deliver, I get about 50 miles down the road, and it starts knocking pretty decent, not crazy. So I called my company, I said, it's knocking. They said, okay, we'll get loaded down there in Houston. I was about 100 miles away or so, 50 miles away, somewhere around there. And get loaded and then take it by Peterbilt and see what's up. By the time I got loaded, the knocking was so loud, I just called up my shop foreman, revved it up a little bit, and I said, hey, it got a little bit worse. And he says, take that thing to Peterbilt right away. I don't care what Peterbilt you take it to, just take it to the closest one, because that thing's about to blow. And so I get out, and you know, I'm trying to take it easy on it. There's traffic and everything. And then I get on the highway. I'm good. I get to Katy, Texas, I believe. And I put it in neutral on the interstate because it was knocking that bad. I didn't think I was going to make it even to the Peterbilt. And I literally coasted. Luckily there wasn't a stop sign. I coasted right into Peterbilt, and it was so loud, all the mechanics were outside like, oh, we heard you from the interstate. You know, we knew that you were coming, you had to knock an engine. We heard you from the interstate, so we're all out here. It was crazy how bad it was. And then they turned it, I said, I don't know if you want to turn it on, you know, you might not be able to make it into the bay. And so we got a forklift that could pull it. So they turned it on, revved it up. Sure enough, rod right went through the block. And Peterbilt ended up putting in a new engine, and they were just going to put in the long block. But my boss said, hey, I need a new turbo and all that, because you got might have metal shavings in the turbo lines and bearings and everything. So they ended up getting it worked out, but I just thought it was pretty crazy how the paccar blew up with 700 miles on it the second day I had it. By the time I got to the shop, it was probably 900 miles. But it's just a crazy story. So make sure when you're shifting these packars, and just keep them under 1500 RPM, because these things are pretty fragile apparently.